Welcome back to the program. You are watching ASEAN Business Report, and now let's take a look on North Korea as the country has cut off a Red Cross hotline with South Korea as it escalates its war words against Seoul and Washington in response to a military drill in the south and UN sanctions imposed for its recent nuclear test. South Korea's Defense Ministry spokesman Kim Min-sok confirmed there had been no contact between the two nations that day, despite no extraordinary movement. North Korea also has threatened to scrap the 1953 truce that ended the war with the South. Tensions on the Korean peninsula have risen since the North conducted a third nuclear test on February the 12th, prompting new UN sanctions. Kim added that South Korea's military was prepared and ready to immediately strike back if the North provokes. Meanwhile, South Korean President Park Geun-hye and her cabinet members today discussed how to respond to North Korea as anti-North Korea rallies continued amid tensions on the Korean peninsula. Park had advised her cabinet members to be ready to strongly respond to any possible provocations by North Korea, but she added there would be rooms for her Korean Peninsula Trust process if Pyongyang comes out on the path toward change, and the process calls for greater changes and dialogue to help build trust and reduce tensions with the North.
And now moving on to China with probably a wary outlook to its economic outlook, as China's economy showed signs of weakness in the first 2 months of the year, falling short of expectations that it would resume the kind of strong growth with low inflation that it has helped drive a global economic recovery. Now, for China's economic planners, the latest health check from the nation's economy presents an uncertain diagnosis. Statistics released over the past few days indicated that China's inflation is mounting and domestic economic activity is slowing. Lending to property construction remains strong. But if the central bank senses a credit-backed property surge is in the offing, it could feel pressed to pinch credit, which could impede growth. The disappointing recent numbers leave analysts divided with China's growth prospects. The weak activity data and rising inflation reinforce the view that China's potential growth has dropped to 7 to 7.5%, if not lower, and for 2013, some forecasts have pointed to a 7.7% growth. Now, this means that the new leadership may find their hands tied in terms of policy, leaving the market guessing for the months ahead.
And now let's take a look on India, as the country is inviting Brunei to supply its natural gas to the eastern parts of the country to meet rising demands for the commodity. India's High Commissioner to Brunei said India has yet to secure a gas supplier. That's why they offered Brunei LNG a chance to an investment agency in gas pipelines. It can be a partner or a holding partner coming in with technology. He affirmed that the Indian government has already held preliminary talks with Brunei authorities and relevant stakeholders, and hopeful that it can be materialized. Brunei's strength and experience lies in the field of oil and gas, especially the upstream gas. Out of the $500 million trade volume between the two nations, $400 million came from India's oil imports from Brunei, illustrating heavy importation for India and less exports to the Sultanate. High shipping cost, lack of business ties between merchant commodities and Brunei's small market have been blamed for the low trade volume.
Now, for those of you with the coffee drinkers out there, here's a little shout out as the coffee harvest in Vietnam, the biggest grower of the Robusta beans used by Nestle instant drink, may decline for second year because of drought in the main growing regions. Luong Van Tu, the chairman of the Vietnam Coffee and Cocoa Association, or VCOFA, said output may drop 30% in 2013 to 2014. Production fell 25% in 2012 to 2013 from 1.5 million tons a year earlier, while Bloomberg survey estimated that in that same period of the year, the crop will be at 1.43 million tons. Exports from Indonesia, the third largest shipper, are falling because of higher domestic consumption. And global usage of Robusta has expanded as demand has dropped for the costlier Arabica beans brewed by Starbucks. There are already tens of thousands of hectares that have no hope in the next coffee season, whereas in other areas, the beans will likely be small. Now, Robusta futures rallied to $2,188 a ton in New York Stock Exchange lift on March 8. The highest trade day level since October 4, where most active prices have advanced for 3 weeks, taking gains to 13% this year as they gained 6.3% in 2012.
And now we are up for an analysis from our editor Kun Thanong Khan-Thong and Abigail from Asian News Network on Sabah Dispute.
Abigail, recently there have been clashes between the Malaysian authorities against the intruders, onto the Sabah. And can you identify who were the intruders and how do you read the situation, from here? And do you think that the situation, will become worse?
Just this morning, there was an article at the Philippine Daily Inquirer, and there were two issues that were raised. And one of the issues raised is, one, does the Sultan of Sulu have any rightful claim to Sabah? And secondly, if he has any rightful claim to Sabah, does the Sultan of Sulu have the right to invade Sabah? So these are a group of men from southern Philippines who have laid claim to Sabah since the 18th century. So, and Borneo, North Borneo, or which is now known as Sabah, is, as we know, under the Malaysian government. So that's why the standoff is going on right now. And if any, this issue has forced the two governments, Malaysia and the Philippines, to finally resolve this issue that has been going on for decades. So people are seeing that this fighting in Sabah will escalate in the next few weeks, because there are more fighters now coming from the South Philippines going into Sabah. And as of the latest news, there have been a dozen Filipinos killed already and some Malaysian forces.
So what is the position, of the Philippines government now regarding this issue? Does they support the intruders, into Sabah or not?
Well, as we know, Malaysia and the Philippines, they have a very close relations. Last year, Malaysia helped broker the peace deal between the Philippine government and the insurgents. So they worked so hard to have this close relations. So the Philippine president cannot afford to antagonize Malaysia. And what's interesting in this, what's happening right now, it's in both countries there are elections. In the Philippines, we have the Senate elections and the House elections. And in Malaysia, they're going to dissolve the parliament this March, so they will be holding another major elections again. So there's several complicated issues at play.
Do you think that this issue might flare out and might, involve the international community?
Right now, the UN has stepped in and they're calling for a peaceful end to this standoff. And one way to resolve this issue is to go through international rules and procedure, and definitely invading a territory is not in accordance with international rules and procedure, but definitely people are seeing that this will be filed before the international court.
So how many parties should be involved, in this peace process, and how do you want to see the peace process, look like?
Right now, there's no definite solution to this yet, because they don't know how this will play out in the next few weeks. The immediate solution to this one is to have a negotiated settlement, have the two countries talk, and have the Sulu men stand down. So we don't know if this will happen in the next few weeks.
So how about the sentiment of the peoples living in Sabah? Who do they support, the Malaysian government or the Zulu factions?
There are many people living in Sabah. Some are of Malaysian origins and some are of Philippine origins. And those from the Philippines are considered illegal migrants. And those in Sabah, they consider themselves as Malaysians. So right now what's coming out in the media is that they want to be called Malaysians. So, and the Sultan of Sulu is would like to claim a decades-long property. So some are saying that the claim is extinct.
Do you think that his call is justified?
We'll see, because they have a rightful claim. Actually, Malaysia has been paying a token amount of rent to the Sultan of Sulu for this property. It's only a part of northeastern of Sabah. It's not the entire area. So, but I think what's important is what the people in the area want to happen. So if they want to be under Malaysia, then maybe we can put it to rest that way. The important thing is that there will be no more bloodshed in the next few weeks. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Abigail, for your comment.
Thank you also.
Now, Kun Satapat, have you ever been dining and chilling in Yangon before?
Actually, I went there just once, but honestly, I have never eaten anything on street.
Well, we're going to come back after this break to find out as Chatty Natty takes us along the Yangon street.